Do you have an earliest musical memory from your childhood when music started to become an item of interest for you?
Well, I was quite young, actually. My father was a singer and musician, and so he put a guitar in my hand when I was about 6, and, I started learning to play and listening to him, and then they took me to dances with them. This would be like in the early 40s or middle 40s, 1940s. And my mother and dad loved to dance, and I was an only child, so they just always took me with them, and they would go to the dances that had like Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys and Spade Cooley and Tex Williams, the big Western swing bands. And I remember I really loved that kind of music. I still do. And that's my early influences.
I believe you were still in school when you first began recording, is that right?
Yes, I was a junior in high school. That would have made me 16.
Were you tempted to leave school early and concentrate on music?
Well, I would have loved to, because I'm not very scholarly. But my folks said no way, But as soon as I graduated in 1955, I already had a couple of hits, in the country field. So I was ready to go on the road, and my dad decided he better travel with me. So that I was pretty young to be out there. I was 17 then. And so he quit his job in order to drive me and travel with me. And Mother stayed home, and by then she was making my stage outfits. And we just took off, and I was in hog heaven, have been ever since.
Looking back there, what would you consider to be your first real career break that set you on the road to success?
Well, I'm not sure. I suppose as a recording artist, that's your first introduction to the public, has to be in the material that you do. And Hank Thompson was the one who discovered me. He lived here in Oklahoma City at the time, and so I made a demonstration record, and he helped me to sign with Decca Records. So after I got the contract, he also had a publishing company, and a song came in that he said was darling for a girl and a guy to sing. So we did the duet, and the guy was Billy Gray, and he fronted Hank's band, the Brazos Valley Boys. So, and it was a top 10 record, the very first one. So I really think the material makes a big difference. Plus, you have to have a little talent to go along with it.
Oh, for sure. Now, I believe at first you weren't all that keen on switching from country to rock and roll style.
Well, that came along a little later. I wasn't leery of it. I didn't think I would be able to sing it. But after working with Elvis a couple of years, and him encouraging me and working with me, by 1956, I decided I could do that kind of singing, and so that's when I recorded songs like Hot Dog That Made Him Mad and Fujiyama Mama and Rock Your Baby, those things. Yeah, in the beginning, I was a little afraid of it, but you have to remember I was 17, 18, and it was my generation's music, so naturally I loved it. I wanted to do it. I just didn't have a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
But he and my dad together gave me the confidence to try, and I'm glad I did. It's really been, John, the most successful music for me over the long haul,
Yeah.
Country music, I kind of fell between the cracks, and then rockabilly and rock and roll was not so popular for girls to do in those late 50s. Even after Let's Have a Party came, and it was a good hit. But still, I just couldn't continue to do that type of song because I wouldn't get airplay, and then your personal appearances drop off, and then you're washed up. So that's why when you look over my discography, you see country to start with, and then a period of rock and roll, rockabilly we called it, and then back to country, because my main thing was to be able to make my living and sing and perform.
Did it become a dilemma at any stage for your record company on which way to promote you as a country or a rock and roll artist or whatever?
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. That's why I said I fell between the cracks.
Yeah.
Capitol Records in this time period, the late 50s, they wanted to pigeonhole you. They signed me as a country artist, but I came in with all this fresh, different kind of material. They let me record it, but they really didn't know how to market it or what to do with me. So that was why I eventually had to go back to country in order to get promotion from my record company.
Do you remember having a feeling at the time that you're part of a whole new form of music, a pioneering movement of music?
Well, I'm not sure I thought of it in those terms, but I knew it was a brand new, fresh music, and I loved it. And I knew that America wasn't ready for a girl to sing it, and that broke my heart because I really loved it.
Yeah.
But now, the reason I've said that rock and roll has been the mainstay of my career, since 1985, I've been working primarily rockabilly and rock and roll shows. First of all in Europe, and then in 1995, doors opened for me in America, and I found all of these new, young rockabilly fans that it really excited me to know they were out there, and they were excited to find out I was still singing, still alive. And Rosie Flores helped me. That all came about through her help, and I've been very grateful. So I've been working almost strictly rockabilly gigs, and it makes me feel young, I think. That's why I like it.
Do you remember the first time you heard the word rockabilly being described as a music form?
Not sure, but I tell you how it came about.
Yeah.
Country music artists were always known, through the 40s and 50s as hillbilly singers. Well, man, I always hated that word, because I sang country, but I was a city girl. And, I proved that by changing the look of the clothes for the girl singers in country music. But we were hillbillies. And so when we started when Elvis and Carl and Jerry Lee and Johnny all started doing this new type of music, and me, then we were rockabillies. So I don't remember the first time I heard it, but I'm not sure I liked that too much either.
Now, your vocal style was quite unique for its time. Did it develop naturally for yourself, or were you drawing on influences from various places?
Well, when do you mean? Early?
Yeah.
Well, everyone, I think, is a combination of singers that have influenced them. When you mix it all up, it comes out as your style. Elvis always said his influence was like the Grand Ole Opry country music and the black music from his upraising in Mississippi. And so he was a combination, and I was a combination. That's the only way I know how to describe it.
Yeah.
Everyone has something that you have to start out with something, and then eventually it'll evolve into sounding like you and nobody else.
Looking back now, how do you think you coped with the fame and notoriety that you achieved in those days?
Well, I'm probably not the judge of it, but I've been told all my life that the success didn't ever give me the big head. I handled it just very normally. It was something I'd always wanted. I was ready for it. I wasn't so grown up as I thought I was, I'm sure, but I was just always grateful that the public would let me make my living, and a darn good one, doing what I love, and the only thing I really know how to do. So I've just been more grateful than I have been arrogant about it.
Yeah. Were you very conscious of an image in those days, or were the people around you, like record company management, more intent on packaging an image for you?
Oh, an image. Well, no, I always kind of controlled that myself, because as I said a while ago, I was singing country music, playing a guitar, singing with country bands, but I didn't like the way the girl singers were dressing in those days. They had the cowboy boots, full skirts, cowboy hat, and I tried it for a while, but that just wasn't me. And my mother, so happens, as fate would have it, was a professional seamstress. So I said, Mother, can we do a dress like this? And I would draw it, and she'd say, well, sure. And so I got out of boots, I went to high heels, got out of full skirts, I had tight-fitting sheaths, and the fringe, instead of being leather, I put silk fringe and rhinestones, had the big hair and long earrings. I just wanted to be glamorous, sexy, glamorous, whatever you want to label it, but I wanted to see some glamour. So I've always pretty well directed my own image.
Now, you became a Christian in the 70s, obviously a major turning point in your life. Anything or anyone steer you in that particular direction?
Any what?
Was there any one factor or anything or anybody in particular that steered you in that direction?
Absolutely. That was Jesus Christ. When I became a Christian, born again, it became very important to me to let my fans and the world know what Jesus Christ had done for me, and the best way I could do that was through my music. So I really concentrated heavily on the message of my songs and to get them out, but it just so happened that it didn't ever take off for me. You know, it was one of those things, but I was very, very happy. My husband and I were both saved at the same time, and by then, of course, he's managing my career and doing my booking and everything. So we began taking gospel appearances in churches, you know, locally at first, and then the word spread that Wanda Jackson, this popular country singer, has become a Christian, and so they'd have me at their church, and I was packing church houses, you know, full. And we were seeing a lot of wonderful things happening in people's lives, coming to Christ, and just so many wonderful things. So it was a very happy period in my life, and that lasted about 15 years. And then my husband and I both felt the leadership of the Lord that I should go back into the secular field and carry my message to the secular world, more so than just churches and Christian, you know, organizations.
Yeah, sure.
So that was in 1985, and I went to Sweden first, and all the doors started opening. And, you know, John, I have never had as much publicity just as being Wanda Jackson as I have been since I've been Wanda Jackson, born-again believer. And so, you know, I know that's all in God's plan. And all I try to worry about is staying in His leadership, you know, doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And I've been very, very happy all this time.
So have you been combining Christian material and secular material into your shows nowadays?
Yes, I do. I don't do a lot of Christian songs when I'm working when I'm working a secular venue, because I'm not going to impose, my beliefs and things. I just want people to know. I don't preach or, get heavy-handed with it.
Yeah.
In fact, it came to the point in Sweden, the man who was recording me there and doing bookings, he said, I don't know what to call your show. He said, I'm going to work on it. I'll come up with something. And he eventually came up with this: the Happy Wanda Jackson Country Gospel Rockabilly Show.
That says it all, really, doesn't it?
Right, it says it all, and that way people know up front, exactly what I'm doing. But as I said, I certainly don't push my beliefs on people. I just want to let them know that I'm happy in Christ and sing a song about it.
You found a happy balance there.
I feel that I have, yes. Yeah. My public always accepts it, and I do have the ear of a lot of people, a lot of young adults, and so I think I'm right in God's will with this.
Now, over the years, you've recorded in some foreign languages as well. Were you fluent in other languages beforehand?
Heavens, no. I'm an Okie, John. I have trouble with the English language. But 1965, Capitol Records in Germany, which is EMI, the mother company of Capitol, invited me to come over to Germany and record in the German language, and I just thought, well, this is some kind of a joke, And I told them there was no way, and they said, well, we'll take care of the songs, and you're singing in that language. You don't have anything to worry about. Just come and try. So I said, well, what have I got to lose? I'd love to go to Europe anyway. So I went, and it was the hardest work I've ever done professionally singing, But it's been the most, I wouldn't say lucrative, just the most rewarding work that I've ever done, because the first song they released in Germany became #1 song. In 1965, this was #1 over the Beatles, Petula Clark, and, Brenda Lee, the Supremes, all of these people. And there I was, #1. I couldn't believe it.
I believe also Japan has been quite an overwhelming success story for you too.
Yes, it has. But the Japanese people want the American artists to sing in English. They don't. I tried a couple of songs in the Japanese language, and no, they didn't want that. So that's fine with me. It's easier. And I recorded in Dutch and Japanese and German. I hope those days are over. That's very, very hard work.
A common opinion that is held of you is that you were very much ahead of your time. It just wasn't common, as you said before, for women to present such a raw rock and roll sound in those days. Is it a regret, perhaps, that you didn't enter the rock and roll years later when it was more acceptable?
Well, I'm not sure. That would just be. There's no way I would know, is there? But I do know one thing. When Let's Have a Party and Right or Wrong were up there in these charts with the rock and roll people, I didn't feel real comfortable singing. In fact, I know that's why I didn't pursue it more. I was not comfortable working with the people that I was working with, and not comfortable with my audiences. Because even though I was quite young when I started singing professionally, my audiences were always adults. So all of a sudden, with Let's Have a Party and Right or Wrong, they were these, we called them the bubblegum set, young teenagers. And I just could not relate to them. And I just didn't like it. So I just worked enough to keep my record sales up, but I went back to my country venues and my rock and roll venues, or my rockabilly venues.
Now, many female performers over the years have cited you as a major influence on them. Are there any of those that you feel a special affinity with?
Well, yes, there's about 3 that have surfaced since this rockabilly thing has started happening for me again, a revival of my career. Rosie Flores, as I told you.
Yeah.
She had me sing on one of her CDs, and she's a sweet gal and a great rockabilly singer and guitar player. Eventually, I found out that Tanya Tucker, she called me her hero, and then Pam Tillis. Do you know Pam Tillis?
Yes.
She had me on the first show that she had in Nashville, and she got an all-girl band, and she wanted me to come in as influence on her singing style. So, and one other, which this girl isn't too popular outside of probably the West Coast, but her name is Jan Brown, and she's more of a country singer, but so I was an influence in her life, and many other singers, that aren't so prominent. So that's a good feeling, I feel like, well, I did something right, I guess.
Sure. Now, there's been some extensive CD compilations of your work released by, well, in particular, the German label, Bear Family Records. Do you have any input into how they put together?
Actually, I don't, but I think it's a good thing I don't, because they're very successful with what they do. And Richard Weissett is a very big fan of mine, I found out. And so everything he does on whichever artist he chooses to do, it is first class, and I have never been any prouder of anything than my 2 box sets by Bear Family.
What would be the extent of your live performing these days? How much of the year would you spend touring around?
It varies some, but I do at least 100 concerts a year, and that's just the secular work. I do a few church things, like last week when I was in town I did, and this weekend I'm doing one, but counting Europe and America. So, I think that's enough. We have another business at home. We're in business with our son, and so my husband needs to be here a certain amount of time to help him. So that way I have my cake and can eat it too. I live here with my grandchildren around me and my kids, and my mother is still here, and so I get the best of both worlds.
And just before we finish up, Wanda, what would be your secret to having such longevity in the music business?
You hear the wheels turning? The longevity. I think probably respect for your audiences, your fans, and give them what they expect of you. Mm-hmm. I've been to concerts by certain artists, and honestly, they do 2 or 3 songs that I know, and the rest is just off-the-wall stuff. And I'm thinking, where'd that come from, Yeah. I like to go. Another compliment I get from my fans is they like the fact that I don't change my songs up. I sing Fujiyama Mama exactly like I did it in 1956. I don't use vocal gymnastics, and I don't change the chords to make them fancier or anything. I just do them just like they've been hearing them on the record. And they say that's what they appreciate about my performance.
Now, I believe there's a possibility we may see you down here in the new year.
Oh, you've heard about that?
Yeah, Wendell mentioned it to me, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there's a man talking with Wendell, and if we can get the details worked out, I think it's only for a short time, maybe 1 concert. But when we get that firmed up, well, maybe we can talk again and let the people know, where I'll be and all. But I haven't been to Australia since 1972, and we had a wonderful tour over there with a country caravan benefit show.
Oh, yeah.
And there was about 12 of us on the tour. Tex Ritter and Leroy Van Dyke and Connie Smith and people like that. So I'm looking forward to going back.
Well, we just can't wait to see you down here. You're long overdue for a visit, so it's just terrific to see you again.
Right. I think so, too. You know, I still get, since email, is so available to everyone, I'm hearing from a lot of fans in Australia, and that really thrills me. So I know that I'll get back over there, Lord willing, before too long.
That would be wonderful. Wanda, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you.
Well, I've enjoyed talking to you and your audience, and keep up the good work, John.
And thank you for all that wonderful music, and we hope there's plenty more to come.
Well, I hope so, too. Thank you.
All the best to you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.